All right, everybody, welcome in. This is episode 2 of a podcast we have finally named so eloquently. It's called the Chillinois Basketball Podcast. So we have finally named our podcast. We have an Instagram as well if you'd like to check us out. It's at Chillinois Basketball Podcast. I'm Chase Swaringen, and once again with me is Morgano. Good Fighting Illini football win tonight against Northwestern. We got the Land of Lincoln Trophy. We got to 8-4, which is the same record as last year, but we're not here to discuss Illinois football. We're strictly Illinois basketball. And unfortunately, that was a bit of a letdown, at least in the last 3 days. Uh, Illinois played Uconn on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. Um, Uconn took down Illinois 74-61. A little bit more competitive than that NCAA tournament game a few years ago, but still not all that exciting to watch as an Illini fan. Kylan Boswell finished with 25 points and 9 rebounds. He played out of his mind. Nobody else really helped him. On the Uconn end, solo ball really led the scoring and led the way for them. He had 15 points. Um, we talked about it in the first video, Noah. This game kind of went. I mean, I know you predicted an Illinois win, but like a lot of the concerns we had about if Illinois were to not win this game kind of went how we thought they might go. Illinois seemed to be physically mismatched in this game. UConn hit their threes, and unfortunately, Illinois didn't shoot well, which has kind of been a theme at the beginning of the season so far. But we'll jump into it right away. Noah, give me your 2 cents on this game. What did you see? What did you like? We'll start with actually what did you dislike? Because there was a lot to dislike in this game.
I disliked a lot of it. It's just a classic case of we can't beat the really, really good teams. And it's frustrating. And I thought we were over the hump with Texas Tech. I really did. That win was, I was over the moon with that. And then Bama, that brought me back down to earth. But this game, I mean, you'd hope if you're going to lose, you lose by a few points, right? And they had the opportunity to really get close at the end there with that weird shot clock, no call. We'll get into that in a little bit, but it's a real crusher because it feels like one that you could have won at the end there. You had the momentum going into the last few minutes of the game. They just couldn't get a shot. I mean, they couldn't buy one, really. The freshmen were not looking very good in particular. Stojakovic didn't look great. Petrovic didn't look great with the shooting. Big Z didn't look great either. So it's just one that you wish you could, run it back because maybe if you do run it back, Illinois has a shot. It's definitely not as good of a UConn team as we faced 2 years ago. It's not even close to as good of a team, but they are still very good and they're a Dan Hurley coach team. So at the end of the day, I think it was just a master class by Hurley and he outcoached Brad Underwood and, on to the next one kind of thing, but it does hurt.
Yeah, and you mentioned Underwood seemingly being outcoached, which seems to kind of be a narrative that at least my other Illini friends and I talk about. I'm not sure I subscribe to that notion, at least yet. Um, but there have been some games. If you look at the record against ranked opponents, it's about 50-50 if they win the game against a ranked opponent or lose the game. But it just seems like when they have these primetime matchups where they're the select game on Fox or they're the select game on Big
Yeah.
Ten Network. They don't perform well under the lights. They don't perform well in Madison Square Garden. And I mentioned it on the last podcast. They do not perform well in these early morning games, which is something I was very concerned about going into it. And that's where like I said, I don't subscribe to the whole Brad's being out coached thing. I think there could be a little bit to say about, maybe Dan Hurley is a better in-game coach. That wouldn't surprise me. He's won 2 national championships in the last 4 years. So Illinois is 1-0. But on the other end, there's something to be said about like these early morning games. You got to have your team ready. And a lot of people will say it's crazy, but if you looked at some of the Twitter stuff before, Hurley refused to let his team eat Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday because he was worried about the tryptophan from the turkey affecting his team and having them wake up and be sleepy the next morning, which it looked to me like the Illini were a lot sleepier than UConn. UConn started the game shooting pretty well. Illinois was down pretty much the entire time. I think I saw a stat at one point where Uh, UConn led for 38 minutes or 39 minutes and 48 seconds of the game, and the only 12 seconds they didn't lead were when it was tied 0-0. So we were chasing them the whole time. And then if you just look at the stats too, you mentioned poor shooting, I mentioned poor shooting. Illinois shot 32% from everywhere, 21% from three. But even more alarming, until that little run they had at the end there in the last 5 minutes of the game. I saw a stat they were shooting 7% from the field in the second half. That is absurd. You cannot, I mean, you can't shoot 10% from the field in the second half and win most basketball games. You can't shoot 15%. 7% is ridiculous. And I think I texted you this during the game. I'm not sure what's worse. Shooting 7% for a stretch. I mean, and it wasn't just a small stretch. It was a long stretch of that second half where they were still shooting 7%. I'm not sure what's worse, getting 30-0 run against UConn or shooting 7% because that's just your own bad play. A lot of players underperformed, underwhelmed me. Andre specifically, David Mirkovich and Keaton looked like freshmen for the first time really in this game. There's a lot to get into if we're going to talk about bad stuff. But if you had to kind of if you're Brad before the next game, you got a week now, you got 8 days, 9 days to prepare them. If you're Brad, who are you harping on the most? Who are you getting after the most? Or is it just a team thing? Is it a lack of, Kylan looked like a dog, but everybody else needs to look like a dog on this team. And I'm not sure Illinois has a bunch of dogs on their team yet. I'm not convinced. Kylan has proven that. Everybody else, I'm skeptical about at the moment. But if you're Brad, what are you saying to this team before the next game against Tennessee?
It's tough because he's Brett Underwood. He's already a coach that's gonna get on you. Even if you're winning games. And he had made some comments about Merck, and people took it the wrong way, and they're like, "Oh, don't make Merck feel bad because then he could put him in a slump." And you know, I it, you just got to understand that Brad's that type of coach. And I mean, we've seen these kind of games before. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, look at last year's team. And that's the big difference. I mean, if you look at the two losses this year, Alabama and UConn, they're two very, very good teams. They're not like medium, tier teams by any means. So I think you just have to keep true to what you're doing. You really got to focus on getting to your man, getting to your objective, because they're just getting beat out so many times. It's just like the pick and roll, the 3 pointers. I mean, they're leaving wide open threes all the time now. And that's something that Brad's always been very, proud of, is his 3 point defense. Oh, don't have them take any threes, tough twos only. And this year it seems that we're just missing assignments. And I don't know if it's bringing in a new defensive coach and just trying to make that gel and, make that mesh. I don't know if it's the fact you got a bunch of 7 foot tall white guys and maybe they're not the most athletic people on the planet. It might be a combination of a bunch of things, but I think if you're Brad, you got a good group of guys. And right now, their big problem is they're not making shots. Well, luckily, that's something that hopefully will turn. It's not the whole season. They're not going to be able to miss this many shots. You hope, right? So I think you just got to keep doing what you're doing, right? The standard is the standard, as Brad Underwood says. So I hope that they can work a little bit on the physicality. Don't let guys bully you, especially like Keaton. Seems that he can just get back down in the paint very, very easily. Obviously, Petrovic can get back down very, very easily. He's not the biggest guy by any means. So maybe working on some double teams, maybe working on getting some more rebounds as well, because that was something I was very impressed with at the beginning of the season was their rebounding. Not so much the last few games. I mean, they've just not impressed me, quite frankly. So I think you got to keep doing what you're doing, keep working on your strengths, keep working on your weaknesses. And it's tough because you got a very good Tennessee team coming up, but that is what you got to do because the Big Ten is very tough this year. I mean, quite frankly, it's one of the strongest years I've seen the Big Ten have in a while with the top heavy team. So that's what Brad's got to do, at least going forward into the Tennessee game.
Yeah, and the two things you mentioned that really resonated with me at least. Firstly, the defense, I think the defense stepped up in the second half, especially in that last little stretch there. So it was a little bit encouraging to see that, at least to go into the next game being like, okay, we got some stops. I really thought there was a point in the game, and I texted you about it too. There were stretches of the game where UConn didn't score for 4 or 5 minutes, but the Illinois issue was just they couldn't put the ball in the basket and they couldn't cut the lead down. Now, defensively, I will say it was driving me crazy. We seemed to go under every single screen, which I had watched Mike Latulip talk about. That's kind of a tendency Illinois has is going under screens. But they were making threes. And at a certain point I was like, we've got to switch this. Like we got to battle through the screens, go over them, do something else. And we just kept going under screens, even on screens like in the mid range. And it was getting a little ridiculous in my opinion. We'll see how they adjust to that against Tennessee. I don't know if Tennessee is as good or is going to be as good of a team at shooting the three. UConn shot it exceptionally well. I'm looking at the stat here. Um, I mean, they shot 36% from three, which I guess is pretty pedestrian actually, but it felt like when they needed a three, when they needed to have three more points on the board to pull away from the Illini, when the Illini were making a comeback a little bit, somebody would knock one down. It was like, oh shoot, there it is again. So I'm not sure if Tennessee is as clutch with the three. I'm not sure if they shoot it as well. We're going to look into that in a bit here. But yeah, going under the screens was just driving me crazy, and we never adjusted, and I was a little bit annoyed with that. Now, the thing you mentioned about the shooting too. That drove me a little bit more crazy, and I think most Illini fans would agree. And I said it to you before the show, and we were kind of going through the rundown. I think the most frustrating thing about the Illini, and Brad touched on it too, and a lot of people were pissed off on Twitter about this. Brad said, we get good shots. And I don't know if how closely you watch the game. I don't have stats to back this up, but if you watch that game, a lot of those threes that Illinois took were wide open. After a good play and a good kick out, a good drive from Petrovic, Mirkovic maybe inside creating some havoc and then kicking it out. They were open threes, and we just could not buy a bucket. And I think that's also what makes it more frustrating is because you're like, all right, contested threes, they're probably not going to go in. Uh, like Hail Marys at the shot, the shot clock, which Bruce Weber's offense was notorious for. Those aren't going to go in probably. You're not going to shoot those at a high clip. But the knockdown corner threes, like they're wide open, the top of the key keys when Petrovic goes around a screen and kicks it back to Tommy or Z, those need to go down. And I think that's a mental thing. Just, Illinois had games last year against Oregon, Michigan, where they just couldn't miss from three. And I think it's just you watch the first couple go in and they're like, all right, we're all unconscious now. You watch the first few people or the first few shooters brick a few threes, and now you're like, all right, I can't be the next one to miss. So I think it's a mental thing, which is good for the Illini, in my opinion, because we have 9 days to prepare, or we had 9 days. It's going to be 7 at this point. But they have a lot of time to prepare for the next game. And we can dive into actually like what we liked about it. But I that's something I like about the Illini going into the next game at least is they have so much time to prepare. And you said last time the Illini don't usually have two bad games in a row. I don't think they ever have three bad games in a row, especially with this amount of time to prepare. I would be very concerned if they did, but we'll see on Saturday next week. But if you had any things that you did like about the Uconn game, there wasn't a whole lot to enjoy, but um, I mean, if there's anything to take away from that, what are some positives that you thought maybe?
Well, I did want to talk about that weird shot clock situation as
Oh,
well. I don't
yeah,
know
you know
what that
what?
was. So the refs explained it. It didn't make any sense. I mean, it didn't look like it hit the rim to me. And if it doesn't hit the rim, I don't get why the shot clock doesn't reset. Either way, it was a very weird situation, and it totally swung the momentum of the game. I mean, it would have turned it into like what, a 5 point game with like a
Yeah,
couple
Illinois
minutes
was
left.
down 5 at the time, and hypothetically, they would have had the ball back. Um,
Yeah, I mean that killed the momentum and really, I mean, you don't know what would have happened after, but you like to think that Illinois would have had a momentum on their side and been able to close it out, but that's a tough one for sure.
I believe at the time it was either a 9-0 run or an 11-2 run. Um, and it's funny you brought that up, and good thing you did because it was a big point in the game, and there's been a lot of talk about it. I think even Fox, like college basketball on Fox, posted it after and was like, "What do we think of this call?" And usually, like national sports news or national sports like dedicated pages they're not going to post about a specific team and be like, we're the refs wrong here. Because that draws a lot of attention to the refs, which I mean, even announcers are supposed to be pretty unbiased towards the referees, unless they really disagree with it, or you have like Jay Billis on the call or something. He's usually pretty after the refs. But anyways, um, I had a tendency as a kid to really think refs like sold games. I'd be like, oh my God, that's an egregious call. I'm not saying that. Like the Illini lost this game on their own. They got down big early and they couldn't battle back because they couldn't make shots. But, when they started to make those shots, they were down 5 points. There was an argument for, I don't remember who was boxing out, if it was Merkovich or Jake Davis. But there was an argument for there was an over the back call that was missed there, so that should have been two free throws for the Illini, cutting the lead to three. The Illini did shoot 97% on 94% on free throws this game, so they were making their free throws. Either way, if it's not that call, the shot clock to me was at 5 or something when the ball hit the backboard but not the rim, and then another 2 seconds come off, and then they kick it out to I think it was it Damari at that point? I think it was Silas Damari who got the ball. Anyway, he chucks up a Hail Mary of a shot. It goes in off the backboard, which the shot clock would have expired at that point. Jake Davis also commits a foul on that three-pointer, giving him another 4-point play for the game. And then at that point, it's 9, and there's maybe 2 minutes left. So um, I don't want to ever say the refs cost the Illini a game because it's a team sport and I don't think the ref unless it's like tied at the end of the game and the refs make a wrong call, but that really switched the momentum. And I wanted to make a point at least that I just think the refereeing in college basketball, and I'm watching some of these games not when the Illini are playing, and I'm unbiased about who's winning or losing. And I just think like the refereeing in college basketball to me is so much lower than like it is in any other sport. Um, you watch baseball and people are like, "Oh, get the robot umpires in there, which we're gonna get next year." And the worst part about it all is they reviewed it for like 7 minutes too, only to
Right.
come up with, "Oh, the play still counts exactly how we called it." So it didn't make sense to me. It is what it is. You can't go back in time and then change those calls, but I do think the officiating on a college basketball level in general needs to be stepped up a bit. And um, I don't want to go one way or the other and say it would have helped or hurt the Illini and they would have won the game or lost the game, but it was a pretty substantial non-call and missed call. And I mean, I've seen a lot of sports personalities that are on TV way bigger than us that are like that was the wrong even after the game, the post game, they said they missed the call. And they don't usually do that in college sports or professional sports. Usually announcers and people who analyze the games, they have to be pretty impartial to the referees, but a lot of people were upset with that. But we can move on from what unfortunately transpired on Saturday or on
Yeah,
Friday.
for the record, I don't think we would have won either way. I mean,
No.
we probably would have lost by less, which would have been nice, but
It made it a little bit more painful of a pill to swallow because it was like, oh, what if? But
yeah.
the Illini, if they want to be a good team, can't be in these what if situations. They need to step on the gas. They need to come out hot playing early. Um, they need to play hard the entire 40 minutes, not just 35 minutes a game. And we're gonna hopefully see that against Tennessee with 9 days to prepare. But we do have another ranked matchup against currently number 17 Tennessee. They just played Kansas in the Players Era tournament. I think it was Thursday. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday night. Um, they were up 14 at halftime and they squandered that lead against Kansas. So Tennessee did look vulnerable in that game. Uh, but just, gut feeling right now, I'm kind of like it's another big game for the Illini. Are we going to show up? What do you think? Do you think the Illini are going to show up this time or?
And it's in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, which I do appreciate we played in what the Uconn fans are calling Stores South, but it was a pretty pro Uconn environment as we all saw on TV. It's going to be the same kind of thing in Nashville. University of Tennessee is about 3 hours away, but they've only really got the Tennessee Titans and the Nashville Predators and then the Tennessee Volunteers. So people in Tennessee are pretty pro Tennessee and they'll travel to go see them. Um,
Yeah, and I don't think Tennessee's as good of a team as UConn is, but I do think they're still a very, very good team. They're a top tier team, and those are the type of teams that Illinois has had a problem with this year. And I said that, oh, we beat Texas Tech, but now Texas Tech's not even looking like a top tier team. So we'll see how they pan out at the end of the year. It's going to be tough with Tennessee. I mean, I could see, of course, I could see Illinois winning any game they play if they get hot. Like look at last year with Oregon. I mean,
Hmm.
that was just insane what happened. And this team's capable of that as well. They have this 3-point shooting to do it. So it's just a matter of do they show up defensively? Are they able to make stops? I mean, Tennessee, they're usually known for their guard play, and that's something that Illinois has had difficulty with in their two losses. So I like to think that, if they show up, if Kylan always shows up, to be fair. I really like Kylan offensively and defensively. Andre, I think, needs to show up, because if he's not showing up on defense, which generally he's not, he's got to show up on offense, which he just did not do against UConn. So you got to have your veterans step up, and you got to have your freshmen play a little bit better. I mean, you can't have Merck hitting the front end of every single three that he shoots. The last 3, 4 games, he's just been hitting the front end every time. And I don't know what if his rhythm's off, if the bigger crowds are throwing him off or something, but we're going to need to see the freshmen play a little bit better. Mert Petrovic isn't necessarily making his shots right now, but I like what he's doing. He's driving to the basket. It's just tricky with his size. So I just want to see him keep developing. I think he's been doing all right. I want to see Ben keep developing. I haven't minded Ben's play this year at all. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. He's an easy target, right? Especially from last year. Everybody would rip on him last year. So you need these guys to play solid basketball if they want to beat Tennessee. You go to a game like Missouri, maybe you don't have to play as good and you can still get the win. But a game like Tennessee at Tennessee, you got to play A+ basketball and you got to get out of your funk. I think they're in a little bit of a funk right now. Merck's in a little bit of a funk. Maybe Tommy's in a little bit of a funk. So you just got to snap out of that. You got to get back to winning. This is a winning program. And it begs the question, if you're going to play all these tough games, I get it. It's okay, great. You win or lose, it's fine. Oh, it's not a big deal if you lose. But if you lose them every year, why not just schedule easier games and win them? Because at the end of the day, a 30-point loss to Duke is not helping your resume. A 20-point loss to UConn is not helping your resume. So maybe you want to play a little bit, maybe just a little bit easier. I mean, like the Arkansas game was perfect. That was great. Thanksgiving, Arkansas, they're not like a top 10 team, but they got the notoriety, they got the coach, they got the players. That's a primetime game. That's perfect for Illinois. Oh, Brad Underwood's like, no, let's do UConn and Duke, the two hardest teams in the country to beat. Why would you do that? Can't we play like St. John's, just someone a little bit easier? I mean, but it's
Grouping on the Red Storm, huh?
I haven't been impressed with the Big East at all this year. It's DePaul's conference. No,
Besides Yukon, obviously. So
yeah, well, UConn's looks very good, and I think a lot of people I've seen some sentiment online that UConn's like the only top 25 team in the Big East right now, which you can make that argument.
yeah.
So you just want to see better all around coaching, better all around play. I mean, you want to see Crocker maybe step it up and have a big time showing. You want to see him hold one of these big time teams to less than 60 points, ideally. I mean, Houston does it all the time, so it's not impossible to do,
Mhm.
but it's going to be very tough against Tennessee. I mean, this was a game that preseason I had predicted Illinois to lose. So I would be surprised if they win it, but they're very capable of winning it for sure.
It's one of those, and we discussed it last time. It's one of those interesting matchups where, like, just on paper, I do believe the Illini can win, but I've got flashbacks to last year when Jordan Gainey hit the buzzer beater all the way like 90 feet down the court. Nobody stepped in front of him, just laying in probably the loudest. I didn't go to that game, but I just remember hearing it on TV. That game was so loud. The fans showed up so well for that game. So we're going to get the flip end of that in Nashville this time. It's not actually in Knoxville at the University of Tennessee, but like we said, it's going to be mostly a Tennessee Volunteer crowd. Um, Now, this Tennessee team's interesting because they did return a few key starters, but they also lost some key players as well. Like I mentioned, Jordan Gainey's not on this team anymore. He graduated, but they do still bring back Jacoby Gillespie, JP Estrella, and then Felix Okpara, which I don't know if you remember from last year, but he had quite the game against the Illini. And he's the most physical player on this team. He's 6'11". And if you look at the size they have on their roster, this is the first team I think matches up in terms of the guys they actually play, um, with the height that the Illini have. They have three guys that are 6'11", or one of them 6'10" maybe, but 6'11", and the Illini have three players if you include Jason Jackson that are 7 feet. So this is a tall Tennessee team. I don't think they're as good at shooting the three as Uconn is. Uh, but this is going to be another one of those battles where it comes down to the guard play. I trust Kylan to hold down his role defensively, like he's done so well so far. Um, but we're going to need to see some other key players step up. And the theme so far this season is in those big games, besides Kylan, nobody else really steps up. I did say before, I think Tommy had a better second half against UConn. I think that's encouraging going into this next game because I'd really like to see Tommy be fully himself again. Now, there's some talk about whether maybe Tommy's just regressed or maybe Tommy is going to be kind of slow for the rest of the year. But I think the UConn game towards the end of it, he had like a series of possessions where he had a pick and roll and he knocked down the top of the key three. And then the next possession, he backed inside and he kind of got like a little turnaround jump shot that he knocked down, which I hadn't seen a whole lot of this year. He hasn't gotten inside a whole lot. And then he had a block on the other end. So I was like, you know what? That kind of looked like prime Tomislav Ivicic again. And I got a little bit excited. So I think that if we're going to make keys to this Tennessee game, one, Brad needs to. He said it in the post game too. I think this week is going to be kind of crazy for the Illini in terms of practice. We're going to really see on this team who's got it in them to kind of be a dog on this team. Like I said before, I think Kylan and Tommy probably know what to expect. And I've never attended a Brad Underwood practice, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of sprinting and there's going to be a lot of jumping on the floor and there's going to be a lot of floor burns and a lot of sweat and probably some guys that are pretty uncomfortable. You know, David Mirkovich is kind of slow.
Yeah.
If I had to say anything about his game, he's got the finesse. He can shoot at times. He's physical, but he moves his feet like he's got bricks on them defensively. So I'd like to see him get a little quicker. Tommy, like I said, he's going to know what to expect, but he's coming off tonsillitis or his tonsils being removed and then a knee injury. So maybe we'll see him get a little bit more conditioning in. And then I know you're a big Zvonimir fan, and I like the fact that he can step out and shoot the three. I do think his shot blocking presence is great, but that man for 7'2", he needs to get more physical. If I had to give anybody the most stick, I'd probably give Zvonimir the most physical because he's 7'2", and I've yet to see him get the ball like on the block and turn around and shoot like a just a off the backboard jumper. Like, and it doesn't even need to be a jump shot. It can be like a little like baby hook or something. But he's 7'2". He's got size on everybody, and he prefers to step out and hit a three like he's Luka Doncic. And
Yeah, he loves shooting the three, and it is possible that Tommy regressed. I mean, it's possible that his tonsils gave him his powers, and it's
Mhm.
like a Space Jam situation where now he's lost his powers.
I didn't even
But
think about that, to be honest.
I do think that Tommy's going to get back into his full form. I was predicting Tommy to be their best player, be a superstar, draft pick, and all this kind of stuff. So I do think he'll get back into it. Look at Will Riley last year. I mean, it took Will Riley until like halfway through Big Ten season to get really good. And by the end of the year, he was, everybody was talking about Will Riley. So I think Tommy's got some time for sure. Merck, he's an interesting case because he joins the team. Nobody's ever heard of him. We're like, okay, cool. He'll come off the bench, maybe play 15 minutes a game. And then all of a sudden, the exhibition game, and then the first couple games he plays out of his mind, and everyone's like, "Whoa, whoa, Merck, Merck, Merck! He's going to be all freshman," and now he's slowed down, cooled down a little bit, and maybe this is kind of more where he plays at. If this is his floor, great. But he is a little bit slow and he's a little bit scared. I think that just being a freshman, he makes the wrong decision sometimes. Passes it when he should shoot it, and I like to see him taking the shot, but if you're missing that many, maybe just kick it out. So it's tough with him. You want to see him start to make it. It's like a Ben Humbercast situation. You hope that he can just eventually shoot enough to where they're going to start going in, and I think they will. But luckily, the thing with Merck is he's got that booty ball element, so he can back it down. But like we said last episode, he gets it taken away a lot. He'll back down in the paint and then just get it pickpocketed. So he's just got to be a little bit better protecting the ball. The good news for Illini fans, if Merck continues to play like this, he may actually stick around for another year, and then he can be really, really good as a sophomore. And then you got Mihailo Petrovic coming back, and you got you know potentially Big Z and potentially even Big T.
The
You know,
retention 2.0.
is literally the retention 2.0, and Ty Rogers. It could be really, really cool what they could do next year with these players. Who's a guaranteed not going to be here? Is anybody other than Kylan?
Kyle and Ben. I
Andre?
think Jake Davis has another year of eligibility.
What about Stojakovic?
Stojakovic is a junior, but I would really doubt he comes back just given he's transferred 3 times in 3 years now, and if anybody's gonna go get drafted on this team based on potential, I think it's Andre.
Yeah.
Um, so I think he's most likely to go just on the people he has on his side of the court, and he's got his dad, Peja. They got a lot of connections that I'm sure would help him out too. But I'm no insider, so um,
I
yeah.
would agree with that though. I think he's probably going to go. But Keaton, he's an interesting case. You could see Keaton leave. I think he's got the skill to get drafted for sure. The question is, nowadays with NIL, it's like if you're an 18-year-old kid, I don't think it's really going to hurt you that much to stick around in college one more year, and you get paid, and you get the experience, you get to develop a little bit in your game. I mean, if you're 18 years old and you go to the NBA, odds are you're going to sit on the bench for probably a couple of years. You look at Kasparis. Kasparis isn't even playing right. I think he's hurt. Will Riley will every once in a while get to play like 15, 20 minutes, but for the most part, he's not really playing much at all. And he's on a very bad team, too.
Yeah.
So the incentive to come back is getting sweeter and sweeter, as the years go on with the NIL stuff going on, and just with programs getting better and better. You're seeing these NBA guys coming back to Illinois facilities to train and work out because they have such good facilities and they have such good training staff.
I would
So
say Coach Fletcher has some pull with that one too, but
for sure, for
the
sure.
strength and conditioning coach,
But
he's quite the guy.
yeah, and that's all part of the package. So
Mhm.
so you like to think that it's not always a guarantee, like, oh, he's a one and done, not hopefully not. You saw the Axel come back to Michigan and he's making a bunch of money and he's playing very, very well. And I don't think he's gonna get his NBA stock affected that much. I think either way, he was probably a late second round pick, but he's gonna end up on a team. He's gonna end up in the G League, probably work his way up to a two-way or something like that. But guess what? He's got an extra 4 million in the bank now, and a potential, Big Ten championship and Final Four appearance and all this stuff. Whatever. So I think these players coming back, it's looking a lot better. And with this team in particular, these European guys, they don't seem like the type of guys that would just transfer to a different school. They seem like it's more of a long-term business decision for them. They don't come up in AAU ball where they're going to a different high school every single year and playing with a new team every single year. So I don't think any of them would plan on leaving. Potentially if their relationship sours with Brad, but again, they're tough kids. They're not going to get offended if Brad's yelling at them a little bit. They're not going to cry.
Sure,
So
they've been yelled at before.
Oh, for sure.
in
Yeah.
languages I don't understand, but
Oh, well, apparently that's what they do. I mean, apparently Brad and Merc yell at each other and Balkan or whatever. And I don't know. I mean,
does Brad, has he learned Balkan? Is that
I don't think
I mean, I
so.
learned, I will say, I'm not going to repeat it on here because I would upset our Balkan fans, I would imagine, but if we have any out there. But my old soccer coach was from Yugoslavia and he used to yell some pretty heinous things at us after I had Google translated what they actually meant by repeating it back in my best Yugoslavian accent. Anyways, I do want to just kind of bring up, there's a little bit of a discussion that I've been seeing, and you kind of touched on it before. It's all over Twitter. It's just like kind of fan forums that I'm in. People kind of have the general consensus and the general just feeling that, these high level games that the Illini continue to play early on in the season before Big Ten play, are they helping us or are they hurting us? Because there is the argument it gets your team ready for March. You get to see who you really are, and I know Brad loves that and he's all about that, and that's great. And I think it's good for college basketball, obviously. Like I want to watch Uconn versus Illinois. I want to watch Gonzaga versus Michigan, although that game was not very close. I want to watch these high-level matchups at the beginning of this Duke, Alabama. I want to watch those games at the beginning of the season as opposed to watching Duke destroy Mississippi Valley State or Mississippi Delta Valley State
Right,
University.
right.
Um, but I think there's a fine line, and I'm almost of the belief that the Illini have crossed it a little bit with their scheduling, just because if you look at their next schedule or if you look at their next upcoming games, we're going to get to our predictions here in a bit, but if everything goes poorly for the Illini, you've now lost to Bama, you've now lost to UConn, you've now lost to Tennessee. You're 6-3. You have another tough matchup against Missouri, and then Big Ten play starts. So I mean, there's a scenario and a scenario that I don't really want to imagine actually happens, but there is a scenario that the Illini are 6-5 going into their Big Ten season. Um, and that's crazy for a team that I think was correctly rated at 17 to start the season. I think once again, after we beat Texas Tech, they probably bumped us up a little too high, just like last year, where it was like, oh, this Illinois team, they've got these Europeans, they've got this young talent, they could be good. And then, I think that came back to bite us in the butt because we had a target on our backs, and they were like, oh, we're actually better than these guys. But somebody made a point, like right before we got on this call and on this podcast, that I read, and I don't know who it was, but I just saw a tweet, and it was something like, if they lose this Tennessee game, like if they go 2-2 against Texas Tech, Tennessee, UConn, and Bama, that's the difference between being like a 2 or a 3 seed and being a 4 and a 5 seed come March. So I don't want to put any game this early as a must win. There's plenty of games the Illini can win to get themselves into the tournament, get themselves into the Big Ten championship contending play like teams at least. Um, but this really feels like more of a must win than there has been in the early season for the Illini in a long time. Because, like I said, you're not getting it, the schedule's not getting any easier after this. You're still Missouri. I think they have Ohio State and Maryland to start the Big Ten season, something like that.
They
Um,
have a tough time with Maryland historically. They can't
yeah,
beat them.
Maryland historically, and that Missouri team's no slouch either. They returned a lot of players, and that's going to be a ruckus game in St. Louis. But I'd like to get your take on that. At what point are the Illini shooting themselves in the foot? Are they doing themselves a disservice, or do you think it really comes around when March rolls around? And do you think the team looks back on these games and you're like, you know what, we almost beat UConn, or not almost, but we almost beat Alabama. We were close. Does that really
Yeah.
help you mentally in March?
Well, Brad loves it. I mean, Brad says every single time he can, oh, we just happen to run into that Yukon team. It's
Hmm.
like, I get it. You can look at it that way, but you can also look at it like Illinois got a pretty easy road to Yukon. For I'd say, at least an easy road to Iowa State. They played like Duquesne. I mean, they played like,
Duquesne and or it might have been Morehead State that year. I think it was
yeah,
Morehead
yeah,
State,
yeah.
but it
Like
was like the
it was
Morehead State.
Duquesne in the second round. Like, give
Yeah,
me
it
a
was Duquesne
break.
in the second round. Somebody lost to them.
We got off easy with that bracket, but it's like I was saying earlier, you don't have to schedule it against the best of the best, and that's what Brad wants to do because that's the type of guy he is. He wants to schedule games against the best teams that he can, but maybe just go one step below. get teams from like, Xavier, Butler, these mid-tier Big East teams, these
I mean,
mid-tier Big 12 teams.
Indiana just crapped all over Marquette 2 weeks ago, and now
Yeah.
they're ranked 25th, and they look like one of the best teams in the country, at least
Yep.
offensively. So,
Iowa's doing it right now. Iowa's
hmm
like undefeated. They're beating like Oklahoma or Ole Miss, not like great teams, but solid teams. And
team that'll
it's
be in the
just
tournament, but not Final
and
Four.
they're games where it's like there's still games that are on they might not be ESPN prime time or Fox, whatever, but they'll be FS1 or CBS Sports, whatever. So I think that turning point has already come. I just don't like that we do these, Alabama and Duke and Uconn and Tennessee. I mean, these are like top 10 teams every single year. And it wouldn't surprise me if Brad Underwood started a home and away with Houston. It's just like
To
you
avenge
gotta
the RJ
calm down.
Melendez. He needs to avenge the RJ Melendez call, though, the technical foul on that dunk. But
That was
no,
bad.
I know what you mean. It's a bit ridiculous sometimes. It feels to me like Brad kind of thinks like not thinks, and I would like Illinois to get to this level. But there's the Champions Classic every year. They're playing that in the United Center next year. It was in Madison Square Garden this year. It's annually Kentucky, Yukon, or I'm sorry, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State, and I'm missing one team here.
Louisville? No.
Duke. It's Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, and Kansas every year. I went to it when I was like 14 years old at the United Center, and it seems to me like Brad thinks like, and if you like Kansas isn't that great this year, and they're good, but they're not
Trey
like
White.
yeah, they're not. It sucks to see him playing so well because it's like,
Yeah.
gosh, what do we miss out on again? But they're not. I don't think they're a top four team in the country. But typically, those teams are top four, top 10 in the country. It seems like Brad thinks we've played ourselves into that contention, and then by scheduling, it just proves that we're not each year, and it's a little bit disappointing because I have a lot of friends that love to hate on Illinois, and it's just like, gosh, we keep losing these games. And the worst part is they're nationally televised games, so everybody's watching them. It's prime time matchup.
Those
So
are they're the games that people remember. No one's gonna remember Jackson State. No one's gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna pick Illinois to advance because they beat Jackson State. No, they're gonna say, oh, I remember when they got blown out by UConn. And it's
yeah,
not as beneficial as Brad thinks it is. He thinks it's like this neutral, like, oh, it is, but it's embarrassing, especially that stat that popped up when we beat Texas Tech, and it was like, this is the first ranked win at home against a top whatever, and it's like,
I
oh
think
my
it was top
gosh,
10
that's
or
the
top
first time. And
five.
then even Brad reacted to it like, oh, yeah, something like that. And even Brad reacted to it. He was like, that's crazy. How could that be? It's like, because you just don't win these big games, Brad. It's like, I love Brad. He's a winning coach. He's brought this culture back for sure. But if you're not going to win these big games, just don't schedule them. And I think part of the problem is you schedule them like a couple years in advance. And so you'd hope
Tough
that
to
by
know.
that point you're really good and maybe the other team's really bad. And to be fair, I mean, the Alabama and Tennessee success has been fairly recent. Those are not teams that historically over the last 10, 15 years have been great programs, at least Alabama now. Maybe Tennessee's been pretty decent. But I mean, UConn and Duke, I mean, those are powerhouse teams decade after decade. So it's just like maybe don't schedule against those teams. And I don't like saying it because, of course, I want to play the best of the best, but I also want to come on here and talk about a win rather than a loss.
Yeah,
So,
it
and
would be
and
nice to
and
be
I
like
don't think,
7-1.
and they don't help you that much in the tournament, like to lose against Duke by 20. I mean, you're going to play in the tournament how you're going to play. I mean, it comes down to luck, really. I mean, a lot of it, of course, skill as well, but you just got to get lucky and you got to have different looks and different opportunities. And I mean, look at some of these smaller schools that pull off these big upsets. So I, I personally, I don't like it, but it is what it is. Brad's going to do what Brad's going to do, and I'm going to ride with Brad because I support him. And even if we lose these big games, come Big Ten play, that's really what matters. And with these first couple games with Maryland, like you were saying. Again, very tough game. I mean, it shouldn't be, but we have a tough time with them, and they got a new coach there, right?
Maryland does, I believe. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head at this late hour after working all day who it is, but
Yeah,
uh,
I thought did they get the guy from Villanova or did the guy from Maryland go to Villanova? I
I
want
think
to
it's
say
the
there's
other way
some
around.
Villanova connection there,
It's
but
there's no more Derek Queen, that's for sure. And ironically enough, Jacoby Gillespie, who was on Maryland last year, is now the leading scorer for Tennessee, who Illinois is going to face. So if you had like a key to watch on Tennessee, I know who I'm going with. I said Felix Okpara earlier, but Nate Ament, the freshman, has just been lights out this year. He's been everything he's been as like advertised. So I think if Illinois can compete with the front court, I would trust Kylan Boswell and Andre to shut down their backcourt. Same thing with Keaton. But it's the front court again that I think is going to matter in this game. And I also think it's going to be the defense once again that looked a little better in the second half. But whether we're switching on threes, whether we're going under or screens, and whether we're going under screens each time, Tennessee can knock down their shots. We're going to see if Illinois can this week. But my key would be we got to stop Nate Ament. We got to stop Felix Okpara inside. If Big T looks a little bit more like himself, if Z can compare to him and contribute. He has so far this year, but I'd like to see him be a little bit more physical. I'm not going to give a score prediction this game because, like I said last time, if the Illini in my head if I think they're going to win the game, I'm just not going to say the score because it's jinx. But the thing I like about our chances here in this game is the Illini actually, maybe we should do another recap in a few days because Tennessee's going to face Syracuse before they play the Illini. And I was really not upset with Purdue, but it was unfortunate Purdue beat Bama at Bama the game before Bama had to play Illinois. Because it's like
yeah,
you lose that game at home, and of course you're gonna come out swinging the next game. You're pissed off. You lost at home to a good team. Same thing with UConn could be argued. UConn lost to Arizona at home. And then their next big matchup, besides, I mean, their next game was Bryant, but their next big matchup was Illinois. So it's like, of course they're going to come out swinging. Um, so if I had to make a prediction, I'm a little bit in favor of the Illini right now, just because the Illini have lost two big games in a row, and I don't know if Brad's going to allow them to lose three. But I also think my prediction kind of rides on whether or not Syracuse wins or loses to this Tennessee team, because Syracuse loses or Tennessee loses to this Syracuse team, which has Carmelo Anthony's son on it, which I think is crazy and cool, by the way.
yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
if they lose that game, it's like they're going to be on the wire too. They're going to be like, well, this is another big matchup. We can't lose this one. So I'm not going to make an official prediction. I'm a little bit pro Illinois right now if I had to bet on anything. I'm not going to give a score prediction. Obviously, that's a jinx, as we've seen last time, but I think it's really more important how Tennessee plays against Syracuse. And then if Brad needs to get the team under control in the next week. This is the first time they're going to be really healthy for a full week to have practice together. I like that. But this is on Brad now. The players need to step it up a little bit. There's some guys I'd like to see have bounce back games, Andre, Keaton. Um, but Brad's got a week of practice to get these guys ready. Hopefully, they're not eating a Thanksgiving dinner the night before this time.
You got to get
What do
off
you
that
think?
tryptophan,
Yeah,
man. That
man.
tryptophan.
What do you think for the Tennessee game? Nashville, 7:30
It,
p.m. Central Time on Saturday.
I think they're gonna have to go play very fast. They just got to score a lot of points. I mean, it's not they're not gonna be able to stop their guards. I don't think, at least not without help from Stojakovic. He needs to step up. Unfortunately, I don't like saying it because I love Andre, but he needs to step up. Kylan can't be the only lockdown defender. I mean, it works when you're playing a team like Texas Tech who only has one good guard, but when you're playing against a team like Tennessee or Alabama or any of these other teams who are known for their guards, it just doesn't work. So you need to score a lot of points. You need to hit the three ball. That's going to be very key. And it's going to be a totally chaotic environment. And it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, 5% of the crowd is Illini fans. I mean, it could be a total, you know, just or I mean, it's going to be orange
It's going to
anyway,
be
but
orange regardless.
it's going to be orange regardless. That could, the Europeans could use that to their advantage because they might not
Yeah.
know the difference. They'll go,
Yeah.
"Whoa, look at there's so many fans here."
Yeah. Who's
But
cheering for who?
no, I think it's a winnable game for sure. It's not like the Uconn game where I went into it just having very little hope. It's a winnable game. For the record, I don't think Syracuse stands a chance. I think they're going to get blown out, and hopefully they get blown out. And Tennessee's riding high, and they come in and like, oh, Illinois, we beat them every single year. We ain't got nothing to worry about. And then that's my dream, but. I'll give a score prediction. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. My last prediction was terrible. I
Well, you had
predicted that.
Merck almost nearly a triple double last game, so I was really expecting, not expecting, I was really excited for that to happen so we could gain the followers and gain the notoriety of being like, oh my God, Noah Morgano's on this show and he calls it every time. But you're 0 for 1, so your streak isn't that bad.
Well, the good news is we got another opportunity right
Yeah.
now. My prediction for this game, MVP, it's feeling like a Keaton Wagler game for me. I think if you're going to have one of the guards step up offensively, Kylan's going to do good anyway. He's probably going to give you 20 points as always. I want to see Keaton play good. And I think this could be the type of game for him to play good. I think if we're playing fast, he could take advantage of that. I'd love to see Petro. If we're playing fast, I know Petro can take advantage of that. He's a very fast player, very quick and can get inside. I'll take Illinois in a shootout. I mean, I'm talking Oregon level performance from last year. I'm going to have to
Semifinals
go.
don't make a shot.
Yes, but I think Tennessee will be able to actually keep up, unlike Oregon
Yeah.
last year. Oregon couldn't keep up with us. That game truly was an anomaly. I mean, I'll go final score Illinois 84, Tennessee 79. And MVP, like I said, Keaton Wagler with 22 points and, you know, 8 rebounds.
Well, there you have it. Hot off the press. Noah Morgano predicting another Illini win. I wouldn't blame you if they lost again, just because like those are two of the
Honestly,
hardest games to make Illini predictions for, and we
I'm going to
started this.
predict Illinois every game this season,
Hey, I
so it
mean,
can't be my fault every time.
no, I know, and it's tough because they've played two such good teams the second we started this podcast. But
Yeah,
we're going to continue
it's
doing these game recaps and then getting into the next game if there is one in the near future. Which fortunately with Illini basketball there is one always in the near future. I don't know about you, but I'd like to start doing more stuff with recruiting. We'll see where this goes. This is a brand new project for both of us. I'm looking forward to it. It's a work in progress. There's a lot of moving parts, but keep looking out for new videos coming up. We'll certainly recap the Tennessee game after Saturday night next week. Once again, if you're trying to catch that, Saturday night in Nashville, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, the Illini face Tennessee Volunteers. And then we'll probably preview maybe in the next couple games because it's Big Ten season and the Missouri game. But I'm looking forward to it. No, it's going to be another fun game to watch. It's been fun to talk to you about this one. Unfortunately, we're 0-2 since we've started this podcast, so I'm hoping we're not cursing anything. No, I'm sorry, we're 0-1. I don't know why I said
we could
0-2.
very well be 0-4 with this podcast in
Well,
the
I
near
mean, no,
future.
that's the worst part. And I just said 0-2, so now I feel like I've jinxed it and like cursed this team again.
Yeah.
Um, but hopefully we'll be on the other end of this and we'll be talking about a win that might change the dynamic. Maybe we'll throw some guests in here or something, or we'll throw some crazy takes in because we'll be high off the win from Tennessee.
Oh, I always got
Um,
crazy takes.
I know you do, but I would say I'm gonna drink the orange Kool-Aid, but Tennessee is orange Kool-Aid
YouTube
too.
had to ban us because our takes are too hot. They couldn't
Yeah,
have
you're
our
right. If you guys were wondering where we went for a bit, YouTube thought we were bots because our takes were too hot. So they shut our page down until I appealed it very kindly and said we are not bots. We're just trying to have fun with an Illinois basketball podcast. And thankfully, they said that was okay. So I know we said we were thankful last time, but it's still Thanksgiving season to me, and now I'm thankful that we got our podcast back. Our Instagram was never down, but the YouTube was. So glad that's over. Once again, Illinois playing the Tennessee Volunteers next Saturday in Nashville. It's gonna be a fun game, Noah. I'm looking forward to it. Are you gonna be watching anywhere or any plans for that
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be tuning in. I generally don't have anything going on in my life, so
yet?
unless I'm at work, I'll be watching the game.
I always make sure I have time for Illini basketball too, even if there's something else going on. It's funny, that's the one sport I will not compromise like sitting in front of the TV and watching the whole game for. Anything else I can be like a little distracted. But that's why we're able to do this podcast because we watch the whole time and I think we have some pretty good takes about it. But we'll see you next time for the Tennessee recap. Maybe we'll get into some other stuff with recruiting too. But no, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for tuning in to the Chillinois basketball podcast officially named now, episode 2. Thanks for being with us, guys. It's been a pleasure.